Okay, people, today I'm going to try to decode the Gospel of Thomas for everyone. I think this really needs to be decoded for everyone because I haven't seen any translations at all that sound anything like what it's supposed to be, as far as I'm concerned. I will go over my personal qualifications in another video. For now, I am just going to go over this gospel here and try to explain it like I see it and like how I feel it should be explained. This is not going to be like a direct translation that's perfect per se or anything, but it's going to be more like when you've studied a subject like science for a long time and then you start reading about astronomy, you understand it, versus if you had no education at all, you would not understand any of it, right? These are the hidden words that the living Jesus spoke, and Didymus Judas Thomas wrote them down. Now this name is kind of a nickname. His name is really Judas, but they gave him this Didymus name, which is supposed to mean that he's some sort of twin of Christ or Jesus somehow. They're twinsies in some way. We never know exactly what way that is, but I suspect that it is in the spiritual way, because this gospel is written much more spiritually. John is a really spiritual gospel as well, but this one, it just, the whole thing is saturated with it, and it makes no bones about it. So, as you'll see, I'll interpret this as Thomas being more in line with Jesus' spirituality and understanding, meditation, and all of those sorts of things more than the others. I think that's probably why he started his own school in India. But it starts with, "Whoever finds the meaning of these words will not taste death." Now, this is just an obvious hint to, once you find God, then you will be resurrected, sort of thing. Jesus says, "The one who seeks shall not cease seeking until he finds. And when he finds, he will be dismayed. And when he is dismayed, he will be astonished. And he will be king over the all." This is trying to say that when you find God, you will be surprised. You will be unsettled. You will be unsettled at how poorly things are being run. You'll begin to see things that should be different, things that should be changed for the better all around you. You'll begin to see the corruption that permeates things, that keeps things from changing. You will be dismayed by the difference in realities of what you see, because you now see the truth. You see something that you were blind to before, and it's new and surprising to you. If those who lead you say to you, "Look, the kingdom is in the sky," then the birds of the sky will precede you. If they say to you, "It is in the sea," then the fish will precede you. Rather, the kingdom is inside you and outside of you. When you come to know yourselves, then you will be known, and you will realize that you are the children of the living Father. But if you do not come to know yourselves, then you exist in poverty. You are poverty. Now, this is just saying don't be fooled. If somebody says, God's over here, God's over... No, God is inside you. That's why you do meditation to connect with God. Okay? The poverty part is saying that, if you know God, you're rich. Not in material ways, of course. That's the other thing. Next, Jesus says, the person old in his days will not hesitate to ask a child 7 days old about the place of life, and he will live. For many who are first will become last, and they will become a single one. Now, I think what this is trying to say is that resurrection, since people are resurrected, the children are born with like a spirit of Christ in them of some sorts already. That's why children are really innocent, and then they become corrupted, and then they lose the spirit, sort of thing. I think that's what they're trying to say is don't discount the young, because they're wise too. They've just been resurrected, and sometimes you'll see like what Yoda says in was Attack of the Clones. He says the mind of a child. So amazing to see the uncorrupted, the pure mind of a child that can see through some of the illusion, just because they operate on a simplistic level and they haven't been overloaded with tons of junk. Jesus says, "Come to know what is in front of you, and that which is hidden from you will become clear to you. For there is nothing hidden that will not become manifest." This is trying to describe how to see through the illusion, to see what's really there and not what people are trying to make you see. And it's saying nothing is hidden. When it says that, it's trying to say that God sees everything, and you can't hide anything, and you might as well just act like you're being watched all the time, because you are, realistically. You can't hide. His disciples questioned him, and they said to him, "Do you want us to fast? And how should we pray and give alms? What diet should we observe?" And here, unlike the Bible, you really hear Jesus' message here. It's not all of this ritualistic trappings of the Bible kind of thing. It's plain old, do not lie. Jesus says, do not lie. Do not do what you hate. Simple as that. You will be judged. When you think for yourself, you will be judged by your own reasoning. Okay? So then it says, "For everything is disclosed in view of the truth. For there is nothing hidden that will not become revealed, and there is nothing covered that will remain undisclosed." It's another just, mind yourself, because God is watching. Jesus says, "Blessed is the lion that a person will eat, and the lion will become human." The anathenia is a person whom a lion will eat, and the lion will become human. This one's a little weird. I'm not sure exactly what this is trying to say, to be honest, but it seems to be a kind of you are what you eat sort of thing. If you eat junk, you're probably going to become junk. If you eat lions, you're probably going to become a lion. That's like trying to say it's good, right? But there's probably a little bit more meaning to that. I don't know. A lot of these have a double meaning. and it's hard to get both of them. And he says, the human being is like a sensible fisherman who cast his net into the sea and drew it up from the sea, filled with little fish. Among them the sensible fisherman found a large fine fish. He threw all the fish back into the sea, and he chose the large fish effortlessly. Whoever's has ears to hear should hear. Now this is obviously, like, on the surface, this is like you want to let the little fish grow and take the big fish. But what this is also saying, that if you find God, the big fish, stay with God and forget about the little fish. Jesus says, look, a sower went out. He filled his hands with seeds. He scattered them. Some fell upon the path, and the birds came and pecked them up. Others fell on the rock and did not take root in the soil, and they did not put forth ears. And others fell among the thorns. They choked the seeds, and the worms ate them. The others fell on good soil and produced good fruit. Now, I think what this is trying to say is, you're a product of your environment. If you put yourself in a poor place, a poor environment, you're not going to thrive. If you find good soil, you will thrive. You'll produce fruit. Okay, so this is just saying you need to watch out where you are and where you try to thrive, because some places it's not going to work. Especially in today's world, it's become very difficult to exist without a bunch of money. So when you're talking about finding a good place to thrive, it can be tricky if you don't have a lot of money. Jesus says, this heaven will pass away, and the heaven above it will pass away, and the dead are not alive, and the living will not die, I guess it's supposed to. In the days when you consumed what was dead, you made it alive. When you are in the light, what will you do? On the day when you were one, you became two. But when you became two, what will you do? Okay, so this is talking about when you find God, you will become split. You will become divided. You will find the reality that you cannot serve two masters. You have to choose God, or you have to choose money, more or less. And then you become divided. You find God, then you realize that I can't continue to serve two masters, right? I either believe in God or I believe in money. You have to choose a path, or you remain divided. When you're divided, that's when they talk about when you are two. That's when they say you are two, you are divided or conflicted. You have not, accepted in total your situation. The disciples said to Jesus, "We know that you will depart from us. Who then will rule over us?" Jesus said to them, "No matter where you came from, you should go to James the Just, for whose sake heaven and earth came into being." Now, James the Just was an extraordinary righteous man, it seems. I can't be exactly sure why Jesus points people to James the Just, other than he seemed to be really righteous like Jesus was, and he was one of the few master meditators. They say too. They say that he knew the Holy of Holies and stuff like that, which is trying to say that he was actually inside the temple for himself, meeting with God through meditation. Jesus said to his disciples, "Compare me and tell me who am I like?" Peter said to him, "You are just like a messenger." Matthew said to him, "You are like an especially wise philosopher." Thomas said to him, "Teacher, my mouth will not bear at all to say whom you are like." Jesus said, "I am not your teacher. You have become intoxicated at the bubbling spring that I have measured out." And Jesus took him aside and spoke to him. Now, I'm pretty sure what Jesus had to say to him here was that because from what I've read from Thomas's stuff, Thomas knows more than the rest of them about this meditation and connecting with God. So I'm pretty sure what Jesus told him was, hey, you know enough now to where you need to go start your own ministry and be your own guru and have your own following, separate from mine even. And I believe that's probably why he didn't want to tell the others, because Jesus just like Thomas was Jesus' twin. Jesus was trying to tell him that he was on a level with Jesus now to where he could just go start his own ministry. The others would probably not have been very happy for Jesus to say, "This guy knows like everything he needs to know, and you don't." They would have probably thrown stones at him. So it says, "What did Jesus say to you?" Thomas said to them, "If I tell you what he told me, you will pick up stones and throw them at me, and fire will come out of the stones and burn you up." Usually when they talk about fire coming out of somebody and burning them up, it's when they blaspheme really bad, like they say something hateful, like against Jesus or Thomas, like I'm suspecting here, and them being angry and spiteful at Thomas or Jesus would be like this sort of blasphemous thing. Okay, so I'm guessing that's what happened. We really don't know. Jesus said to them, "If you fast, you will bring forth sin for yourselves, and if you pray, you will be condemned. And if you give alms, you will do harm to your spirits." Now, again, this is saying like Jesus was saying before, there's no point to fasting. If you fast, you are making a mistake, and you're letting your body fall apart. This really does not help much, and you can do yourself a lot of harm. So, it seems in a lot of what Thomas has to say here, he's pointing out that what many gurus and Jesus say, even today, Jesus doesn't say anything today, but a lot of people today, they say that a lot of people have this misconception that fasting helps you a lot, when there's really been found no benefit to fasting, and it seems to be being classified as more of a ritualistic type of unnecessity here. Also, if you pray, you will be condemned. I think what he's trying to say is if you have like these long-winded speeches about how glorious things are or whatever, this is not what you should be doing to be righteous. To be righteous, you assert yourself or you simply connect to God. And so I think that this long-winded praying thing is what they're talking about. That's like a mistake. Or giving alms, this is a tricky one. I think what they're talking about, doing harm to your spirits when giving alms, there's a line of thought in the spirituality arena to where you don't want to give people too much. If you give people too much, then they become dependent on stuff. They don't do things for themselves. They also, if you give something to somebody and they have nothing, oftentimes somebody else will see something being given to somebody and then stalk them and go beat them up later for it and stuff. Giving somebody something is not always as simple and straightforward and a gift as it might always seem. And if you go to any land and wander from place to place, and if they take you in, eat what they set before you, heal the sick for them. What goes in your mouth will not defile you, rather than what comes out of your mouth will defile you. This is pretty straightforward. Be courteous, be respectful. God will provide, I think is what it's trying to tell you too. Jesus says, when you see one who is not born of woman fall on your face, worship him, that is your Father. Apparently, when you see God, you will automatically know that this being is not just born from a woman or something like that. But nobody gets to see God because he's kind of protected by a bright light sort of thing. Jesus says, perhaps people think that I have come to cast peace upon the earth. But they do not know that I have come to cast dissension upon the earth, fire, sword, and war. For there will be 5 in one house. There will be 3 against 2, 2 against 3, father against son, son against father, and they will stand as solitary ones. This is, I think this is talking about like the end times type of thing that we're in right now. That's the way it is right now. If people look around, you'll see that everything's divided right down the middle, even between families and stuff. Like politically, right? And in other ways too. Like, it's amazing how much like division right down the middle we see in our world today. Jesus says, I will give you what no eye has seen, and what no ear has heard, and what no hand has touched, and what has not occurred to the human mind. This is saying that when you connect to God and you build that relationship, you will be shown, you'll be given like access to information somehow, little downloads and stuff that you wouldn't otherwise. The disciples said to Jesus, tell us how our end will be. Jesus said, you've already discovered the beginning and now you're asking for the end? Where the beginning is, there the end will be too. Blessed is he who will stand at the beginning. I think that's pretty straightforward. And he will know the end and will not taste death. Jesus says, "Blessed is he who was, before he came into being. If you become disciples of mine and listen to my words, these stones will serve you. For you have 5 trees in paradise that do not change during summer and winter, and their leaves do not fall. Whomever comes to know them will not taste death." This one, I have to be honest, I don't know exactly what this one... I've heard a couple things about different trees in paradise or something, but usually these are spoken of as in places that we don't have access to, kind of thing. So it acting like we have just access to these 5 trees makes it seem like it's something in our world and not something in a different world like it's usually spoken of. The only thing I can really guess, but that doesn't really make sense either. I'm really kind of lost on that one, to be honest. Next one. The disciples said to Jesus, "Tell us whom the kingdom of heaven is like." He said to them, "It's like a mustard seed. It's the smallest of seeds, but when it falls on cultivated soil, it produces a large branch and becomes a shelter for birds in the sky." This is just the old one. You start your meditation with like a small belief, and as you believe more and more, it grows, and once you have a real connection to God, it's a shelter for you, and God provides for you and lets you get rest and sort of thing, like it's always spoken about. Mary said to Jesus, "Whom are your disciples like?" He said, "They are like servants who are entrusted with a field that is not theirs. When the owners of the field arrive, they will say, 'Let us have our field.' But they are naked in their presence, so as to let them have it, and thus to give them their field. That is why I say, when the master of the house learns that a thief is about to come in, he will be on guard before he comes in, and not let him into the house, into his domain to carry away his possessions. But you be on the guard." This one's a little crazy. Usually when it talks about this one, it's talking about when man takes over and claims land and such, and then which he never really owns, because God owns. It says here, God is the real owner of the earth and all of this land. So sometimes people come back to claim it, and the owners think that they own everything. "Oh, this is mine," but it's really not, and they end up being foolish because it's really not theirs. And then when it talks about